Hey everyone, we're back in sunny Florida at FIA BOCA. I'm joined now by Stuart Connolly, who's the CEO of CloudMargin. Stuart, thanks for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So I wanted to say congrats. I think this morning you guys announced that you had record revenue growth.
Yep.
In the last year, as well as new clients. Can you comment a little bit about what that means for CloudMargin?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I guess first of all, it's great news. It means that we're doing our jobs properly, and we've built a great platform that clients are utilising to the very full extent that we've designed for it to be used in a multi-asset class way, Look, that strong revenue growth and adding kind of 40 new clients to the platform is just it's just proof of what we've been doing. So we're really happy. We're really happy to be able to do that. We're happy for our existing clients and all the new clients to be able to utilise the platform.
Great. Yeah. I would say that collateral and margin management systems are, let's say, not necessarily all that sexy.
I think that's fair.
Or they
a bit like the people.
Or they don't get enough attention really within the industry. But given the current sort of macro environment, right? We have interest rates, we have inflation, we have geopolitical risks. Now we have what we may term as a banking crisis on our hands in the United States.
Not just the US.
Yes. Can you tell us how critical are platforms like yours? How critical are they today for buy-side and sell-side firms?
Look, absolutely. Well, look, what does CloudMargin essentially do, right? We're a tool that helps clients mitigate client and counterparty risk. So in a world where there's a lot of client and counterparty risk, that's clearly a very important function for people to utilize. And so, look, you're right. I mean, we're in an uncertain world at the moment. We came out of the pandemic. Lots of assistance given to global economies, creating an inflationary spiral. Now high interest rates to try and curb that, and that kind of macroeconomic environment and the volatility, the market volatility has really driven clients to think much more closely about how they manage their collateral. Collateral is a true cost. There is a cost to service your collateral, and in a world where the funding costs have essentially gone up, right, through higher interest rates, you're having transparency over your collateral inventory, how you're utilizing that inventory, how you're posting that around the marketplace, and then how you're really optimizing that, has become more important. When you're in a zero rates environment, kind of optimizing your collateral is a nice to have, and it's important, but in a high rates environment where the cost of funding is clearly a lot higher, it's kind of essential. And look, and that is a good tailwind for us, and because our product is really there to help clients solve for that. Look, that macroeconomic environment is definitely beneficial to our business.
And I would imagine that in the current sort of environment, literally in the last week or two, I would expect that firms' interests or demand for these types of services are growing exponentially. Considering, again, they might already be in positions or trading, right, have some sort of exposure in the markets, or would want to go into the market to essentially trade in the current environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, my background, I grew up working at a company called Goldman Sachs, and I spent 18 years there, and I was there for the financial crisis in 2008 and the default of Lehman, and so I really watched the market kind of unwind and unfold at that time, right? And significant losses that were put around the industry, and then a lot of government action to bail out the financial institutions, and that was a really eye-opening, and it led to a whole heap of regulation, and that regulation was to solve some of the problems that we have today, right? That we are seeing today, and that global regulation absolutely worked to a very great extent. And if you look at the large banking institutions today, they're very well capitalized, they're well run, they're well risk managed, and importantly, the central banks and the regulators perform very regular stress tests on those organizations to make sure that black swan events like we're seeing in the last week or so are managed to, and people hold capital against that. And so what I guess hasn't really happened happened is that depth of regulation hasn't gone down to the level of banks where people thought they were not systemically important, but actually it turns out they kind of are, not from a pure systemic risk perspective, but actually just from contagion and loss of confidence, and that's what we're seeing today, right? Is clearly a loss of confidence and people creating runs on banks, right. And look again, bringing that back to the kind of the relevance of collateral. Post 2008 regulation insisted that collateral become a much more important part of the ecosystem. When I was growing up, collateral was like this boring thing that sits in the back office and no one really kind of cares about, to a very important risk management component, and the regulators mandated lots of collateral movements and lots of collateral against lots of different types of trading exposure, and we are clearly a beneficiary of that.
I wanted to ask about the fact that recently CloudMargin was awarded Best Collateral Management Solution. This was both by Risk Magazine and FOW.
Yep.
I wanted to ask, what is CloudMargin's competitive advantage in the space?
Yeah, so look, I mean, we are a relatively new company, right? We've only founded 7 years ago as a commercial entity. Really been kind of commercializing and monetizing our product for the last 5 years, and so it's a very modern technology stack, right? That's important. When you think about the world of very legacy, incumbent, installed, expensive software, we are a cloud-native software as a service platform, which means we are very agile. It's very quick to deploy our platform, and there's kind of a community effect that happens where the more clients we bring on, the more product we develop to manage the sophistication of those clients' requirements, which means we can push into new areas and solving more for clients, much more quickly than anyone in our competitive landscape can do. And our clients are really our partners, and we do really see them as that, and they really drive our product development roadmap. So we're constantly innovating. And look, it's a modern technology platform. We don't have quarterly release cycles of new product, new code. We're doing that daily. Like we released 900 new pieces of product last year. Sometimes we're releasing 10 pieces of code every day into the platform. So in a very modern technology approach. Great,
awesome. Yeah. I also wanted to get into a little bit of statistics. So according to the BIS survey, which we obviously all study and look at, in 2022, I think they said that the amount of FX turnover that's subject to settlement risk last year was 2.2 trillion, which to me sounds like an enormous amount.
Sounds like a huge number.
Do you think that we have a big problem here? And if we do, kind of what's the solution?
Yeah. So actually, look, I think a lot of times those headline numbers and statistics around certainly the derivatives market can be kind of misleading. I mean, it's a huge number. I think the FX market is actually a very mature market. And look, I'm not an expert in FX market structure by any stretch of the imagination, right? But I have worked in it in the past. And it's actually the market structure evolution that's happening in FX has been really strong over a long period of time. Things like CLS, which manages a lot of netting around FX exposures, real-time settlement, matched settlements, and now FX clearing as a kind of as a newer thing that's happening in the FX space, really does mitigate to a very great extent a lot of kind of what people thought of systemic credit risk in the FX market. So I think the FX market's in a pretty strong place.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Stuart, I wanted to ask, CloudMargin is or was the first collateral management solution provider to be a member of the SWIFT network. I wanted to ask, we have geopolitical risks going on right now, and we've seen that the West or the U.S. Can today essentially turn banks or entire countries off of the SWIFT network for, again, reasons that we don't need to discuss. And then on the other hand, technology seems to be a risk in a sense, in that blockchain technology is expanding. It's becoming a part of our global lives. It's becoming a part of the financial system as well. Do you think on the technology side, that kind of poses some kind of long-term risk to the SWIFT network?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think you said it really well in that the SWIFT network. I mean, I think the fact that it is such a deep network, and it's so relied upon across all of the financial services industry, its incumbent position is very strong. Geopolitical risks and the ability to switch people off definitely makes people, if I'm Russia or I'm China, and I'm seeing sanctions being thrown out left, right, and centre, and the threat of expulsion from the network and the disruption that brings. Does that make you want to then potentially innovate yourself and create your own thing? Probably for sure. But it is, again, it's a network, right? And so for all the cross-border trade, having that network is of such critical importance that from a geopolitical perspective, but even from a technological perspective, blockchain's great, right? It's great technology, and there's lots of people out there innovating around that. But the ability to disrupt these very established, deeply ingrained incumbent networks like SWIFT is very, very challenging, very difficult. That doesn't mean that they should rest on their laurels and do nothing, and I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they've got massive task force internally of people that are looking at how they evolve their own platform and use blockchain and really kind of upscale that platform from a technological perspective. It's such a critical piece of market infrastructure that personally I see it being very difficult to utterly displace it, and but innovation and challenge is definitely a good thing, right? And a bit of competition, and that will make SWIFT even better, I'm sure.
I wanted to get your take on the SEC's recent decision to basically move to a T+. We're moving to a T+1 settlement cycle. I wanted to get your thoughts on: do you think that Europe is going to follow suit? And also, do you agree that, I think, for example, that in some ways we're already in a T+1 or even a T+0 world in terms of some of the things that take place post-trade. Would you agree? Yeah,
look, so at a purely intellectual level, anything that brings in, the length of time you have to wait for settlement is a good thing, right? So at a purely intellectual level, T+2 to T+1 makes a hell of a lot of sense. And, going back to the SWIFT question, things like blockchain and getting to instantaneous T0 settlement, all makes a hell of a lot of sense. The challenge for the financial services industry is there's a lot of legacy and incumbent technology that sits around the globe in institutions, in central pieces of market infrastructure, that are very difficult to modernize and do on a wholesale approach, right? So I think T+2 to T+1, yes, it's a good thing, but there are definitely challenges that the industry will face by doing that, and the ability for the industry to kind of race and upgrade all of their technology and their processes and everything they have sitting around the process they have today, is not simple. It's non-trivial, and it may lead to a period of pain where there's increased fails, and all of the risks that sit around that process as well, right? And recalling securities and all that stuff is it's definitely a challenge, but intellectually the right thing to do and the right thing to solve for. Europe is coming from a Brit who obviously now has, kind of decided to kick themselves out of the European Union. We tend to have pretty interesting legal frameworks that aren't completely uniform. So shifting anything takes a lot of consensus. So I think it will happen? Do I think there's an ambition for it to happen? Yes. But again, executing on it is just non-trivial.
And I think if we take a look at the things that the FIA is doing, I think there's certain market participants that are proactively working with FIA. They have this, I think it's a committee, it's called DMIST, right? Where they're analyzing many different things and trying to come up with certain perhaps standards that could help everyone, again, evolve into a T+1 or even a T+0, which you're absolutely correct. I mean, ultimately that would be the goal for all market participants around the world.
I think it's eminently sensible that people are looking at these things and trying to address the challenges that exist in today's market infrastructure, right? That's why companies like CloudMargin end up being founded and born, right, to solve what seems to be a problem in the market. So for the market to come together and look at standardization and look at improving market structure, it just makes a hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So Stuart, you mentioned, or we mentioned record growth, revenue growth, new clients. You also mentioned from the technology standpoint, you were constantly updating and evolving the product itself.
Yeah.
What are some things that we could look forward to from CloudMargin in 2023, considering the growth and everything?
Well, look, I think sort of organically in product development, we have a very large, ambitious product roadmap ahead of us that I know, I will have lots of people inside CloudMargin, asking for all sorts of different resources to go execute on different things, and we've prioritize what we think are really the most important things, and that is really about helping clients manage risk on a more intraday basis. That's really important, right? In this volatility, we saw in the gilt crisis in the UK very recently, the demand for transparency and understanding of where all of my assets are in the marketplace at any one time, and my ability to recall and substitute, and do all these different things with my securities that are posted all around the marketplace. So we'll be doing a lot of work around that, making sure everything is, there's real-time risk management, and the ability to kind of do lots of things like bulk substitution. So, I can just really manage my risk in a very efficient way on the back of all of the optimization things that we are building and focused on. So how people really allocate their capital well. Look, that's from a very organic roadmap perspective. Partnerships is always a thing we really focus on.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we don't think we're so brilliant that we can solve everything ourselves, and so we like to partner with folks that are in and around our ecosystem in collateral or other parts of post-trade where we think a partnership would really make sense, and we connect our systems, connect data, and just solve more of a problem for clients. Really focused on that. So on our existing partnerships, but then putting in place further partnerships with other kind of vendors and software folks. So we can solve more of the problem, and then we'll see where we are. And we hope next year's as good as this year, and then I'm sure we'll have even more things to try and achieve.
Great. We'll look out for more news from you guys as the year progresses. We wanted to thank you for taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you so much as well.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you too.
Good luck. Thanks a lot, Stuart.
Thank you.